The lock snapped. No hands touched it. A steel door creaked open by itself, black air pouring out. I froze, camera still rolling. That was before my first shot even started. And from that second, I knew getting out by 4 a.m. might not be simple. I park on the gravel lot as the sun drops behind the towers. The building swallows the horizon, brick and stone stacked into something that looks less like a prison and more like a cathedral stripped of its faith. I grab my bag and step out. The sound of the door slamming echoes harder than it should in the open air. Maria waits on the front steps, clipboard in hand. "Sign here," she says the moment I reach her. The form is standard: waiver of liability, assumption of risk, no claims. I sign fast. She passes me a heavy ring of keys and a scratched-up walkie. "Stay on map floors. Out by 4 a.m. Don't test the alarms." Understood. I clip the radio to my belt. The main hall stretches out, tiers of steel balconies stacked high. My footsteps bounce back at me, rolling for seconds. I power on the camera, frame the first shot. Then I hear boots. Slow, heavy, east stairwell. Deke appears, jacket half-zipped, flashlight low. "You the overnight?" "Yeah." He spits into a cup, sets it down. "Listen, stay clear of cell block 14 after midnight. Off limits." Maria exhales. "We talked about this." Deke cuts her off. "Not negotiable. I won't come after you in there." I nod. "Got it." Inside, I'm already planning to go there. Maria continues the tour. My shoes crunch on dust. I crouch at the stair landing, a fresh boot print in the dirt. Size 11, work boot, pointing toward a locked door. Not mine, not Maria's. I whisper into the mic. "Fresh track. East stair. Unexplained." She rattles off emergency contacts. I barely hear. My eyes stay on that door. By the time we loop back to the lobby, daylight is gone. I tell her I'll start outside for the cold open. She agrees. I step into the courtyard, camera on, red light blinking. I deliver the intro in one take, promising the audience a full night inside the darkest prison in America. Behind me, a metallic snap. I turn. The side door we passed earlier, padlocked, now hangs open by an inch. The lock dangles loose. I move closer, camera steady. The door creaks wider on its own. My reflection stares back at me in the glass pane, hand reaching for the handle. Cut to black. The lights flickered once, hard enough to make the camera reset. A voice bled through my radio, even though no one pressed the button. Just 2 words, low and broken: midnight. 13. I freeze, thumb on the volume. Static dies out. Maria doesn't react, like she didn't hear it. I keep walking, bag over my shoulder, camera running. The administrative wing is stripped bare, plaster peeling, desks gone, air stale with dust. Maria recites the rules again. Map floors, 3 checkpoints per hour. Check in on the radio at the top of each. She says it like she's programming me, drilling the lines into my head. We step into the orientation room. Buzzing fluorescent tubes cast uneven light. A single folding chair sits in the middle, facing the wall like someone expected me to confess. I ignore it, pan the camera over a cracked blackboard and a faded map tacked beside it. That's when a man enters without knocking, crisp jacket, combed hair. His steps are deliberate, as if this space is his. "Nolan Price," he says, extending a hand I don't take. "My father was a guard here. 70s. He always said this was the proudest place he ever worked." His tone is smooth, but his eyes dart like he's checking my reaction. He gestures at the blackboard. This wasn't punishment. This was reform. Dignity. Structure. I keep the lens on him. "So the riots? The deaths? That's all lies." "Exaggerated." He clears his throat, adjusts his cuff. "People love to turn shadows into monsters. The truth is dull. Men served time, learned trades, went home. That's the story worth telling." Maria lingers near the door. She doesn't nod, doesn't shake her head. Neutral. I kneel by my bag, pretending to swap batteries. That's when I see it, slipped inside my permit pouch. A folded sheet I know wasn't there before. I slide it out under the edge of my hand. Pencil scrawl in block letters, cell 13. Midnight. My chest tightens, but I keep my face steady. I crumple the note in one motion and jam it into my pocket. Nolan hasn't noticed. He's still talking, voice a little too firm now. "History deserves balance. Don't let rumors poison your work. You have exclusive access tonight, but don't abuse it. Don't go looking for ghosts. I nod once, camera still aimed. Inside, my plan shifts. Whatever happens, I'll be at cell 13 at midnight. We leave the room. Maria takes a call, steps into the hall with her phone pressed tight. Nolan slows his stride, drops his voice. My father's name shows up in certain stories. They're wrong. All of them. If you hear something about him tonight, ignore it. For his sake. His stare locks on me, waiting for an answer. I give none. We reach the end of the wing. The hallway hums, lights stutter. Power dips once, then again. My radio crackles on its own, all channels open. Through the static, a whisper, clear enough to raise every hair on my arms. Don't be late. I freeze in the doorway, camera balanced against my shoulder. Cut to black. The first slam echoed so loud I thought someone had dropped the door. But no, it was the tier gate locking behind me. The clang bounced around the steel and concrete until it felt like the whole block was shaking. When I turned, Maria and Nolan were gone. I was alone in the biggest cell block on the continent. 6 tiers, stacked like ribs of a giant carcass, fading into shadow. I lift the camera, run a wide shot. East Block, Mansfield, Ohio. Recording time stamp, 22:51. My voice carries, bounces back, smaller, distorted. I climb the first tier, boots ringing on the catwalk. For sync, I call the time again into the mic tier 2. The air is heavier, damp, metallic. The cells are open mouths of blackness, door frames warped with rust. I stop, hold still, recorder running. Then I hear it. Footsteps. Measured. Pacing. Exactly 1 tier below. I sweep the light down. Nothing. Just shadow and rust. I keep moving. Tier 3, then 4. Each level, I announce the time. Each level, the echo sounds more delayed, like the hall is chewing up my words before throwing them back. The footsteps keep perfect rhythm, always directly under me. My light cuts across rails and empty cells. No figure, no movement. But the steps don't miss a beat. On the landings, dust lies thick, untouched. But the sound of movement won't stop. It feels less like someone following and more like the block itself is alive, keeping time with me. By tier 5, my nerves feel tight. The beam of my flashlight snags something rough on the handrail. I crouch, zoom tight. Words gouge deep into the steel with something sharp. Price slide. The name makes my stomach knot. Not random graffiti. Not a coincidence. I whisper into the recorder. Graffiti, upper tier, reference to price. My own voice sounds weaker coming back. Then the footsteps stop. The silence is so heavy I can hear my own breathing bounce back from the far wall. I glance down the row, bars, shadows, peeling paint. Nothing moves. I pull my phone, start a backup recording. I call Nolan on camera. It takes longer than it should for him to answer. When he finally climbs up, his pace is rushed, forehead slick with sweat, hand tight on the rail like he's climbed this path too many times before. I swing the lens toward the carving. This mean anything to you? He looks once, fast, then locks on my eyes. I don't see anything. I push closer. The words are right there, deep and clear. He shakes his head again, harder. Rust. That's all. The camera catches his face in close-up. His jaw tightens, his eyes dart sideways like he's working out what I already know. He's lying. He doesn't just see it. He recognizes it. For a moment, I consider pressing him, forcing an answer. But not yet. I step back, mutter thanks, pretend to end the shot. The air feels colder, the catwalk shifts under weight that isn't mine. Nolan doesn't move, just stares at me, waiting for me to let it drop. Then my phone buzzes, sharp and hard. Unknown number. 1 new file. I swipe. The glow lights my face. A photo. Cell 13. Clear. Crisp. Taken tonight. The angle isn't mine, and I haven't been near that wing. Someone else is inside. Watching. Sending proof. The door slammed behind me. I spun fast, camera up, but the hallway was empty. The chapel waited ahead, wide open, silent. That's where the legends said the whispers lived. I step inside. The space feels wrong immediately. High ceilings, paint flaking in curls, rows of wooden pews stretching toward a cracked altar. The smell of mildew sits heavy. My light cuts across stained glass patched with plywood. The air is colder here, and every sound seems to stick to the walls. I plant the camera on a tripod near the front pew, lock it down for a 5-minute static shot. The red light blinks. Then I slip a pocket recorder from my jacket, click it on, and slide it under the third bench. If the whispers are real, the mic will catch them. I circle the chapel, calling timestamps into the mic. My boots crunch on broken plaster. Every step comes back doubled, like someone pacing across from me. I pause, listen. Nothing but the buzz of old lights outside the door. The side aisle is darker, pews sagging with age. I trail my hand along one. The wood is soft, almost crumbling. The altar looms ahead, scarred, gouges cut into it. Initials layered on top of each other like signatures of the forgotten. Candle wax dripped down the walls long ago, hardened into black streaks. I film every detail, narrating flat, steady, like evidence. Halfway down the aisle, I freeze. A thump, heavy, deliberate. The chapel doors rattle once, then again, like someone shoved them from outside. My camera jerks as I sprint back. I yank the door open, light slicing the hallway. Empty. No footsteps. Just dark and silence stretching in both directions. I let the doors swing shut, latch clicking on their own. My pulse spikes, but I force myself back inside. The silence feels heavier now, like the air is waiting. I crouch near the pew where I left the recorder, run my hand underneath. My fingers hit paper. No, not paper, slick cardboard. I pull it out, an old Polaroid, edges curled. The photo is washed out, but the subject is clear. A man's neck, bruises ring deep where a chain pressed hard. Half an inmate ID tag hangs against his skin, the other half torn away. I hold it close to the lens. Evidence, unknown origin. Found under bench. My voice is steadier than I feel. Nolan steps into the doorway then, breath quick like he'd been running. What are you doing in here? Documenting. I don't show him the photo. Instead, I slide it into my pocket and stand. His eyes track me too long before he looks away. I keep the camera rolling, circle back to the altar, give him nothing. I can feel him behind me, restless. He mutters something about the chapel being off limits after midnight. His tone is sharp, almost rehearsed. Then he leaves, footsteps fading fast into the hall. I kneel, adjust the recorder, leave it running. 5 minutes, maybe more. The room is dead silent now, but my skin prickles. I keep glancing over my shoulder, sure I'll see someone in the pews. Nothing, just rows of wood and shadow. Finally, I pick up the device, click playback through my headphones. Static hums, then clears. For a full minute, it's empty air. Then, right beside the mic, a voice. Low, male, one word only. Stop. The chapel around me is empty. The first clang came from behind me. A heavy door shutting on its own. I spun, beam cutting through dust. The hallway to solitary was empty, but the echo of that slam followed me into the dark, as if the walls carried the sound deeper. They call it the hole. 10 cells carved into concrete, lined in a row. The air is thick, sour with mildew, colder than the rest of the prison. No windows, no circulation. Just iron doors with food slots like blind eyes. The Polaroid burned in my pocket. A bruised neck. A torn ID. If the story was true, it started here. I move slow, counting the numbers above each cell. Many are gone, plates rusted to flakes, others bent until unreadable. My light slides across graffiti, crude drawings, tally marks, prayers carved with spoons. When I reach the last door, I stop. Cell 13. The digits are dug into the steel, deeper than any other, like someone wanted the number to outlive the building. I pull the photo, compare the torn ID half to the gouges in the door. The edges match. This is where it happened. Whoever he was, his chain cut those bruises, and this was the cell that finished him. I step inside. The space swallows me immediately. Barely enough room to lie down. Graffiti crowds every surface, curses layered over names. The ceiling drips from somewhere unseen. My flashlight stutters, beam twitching in and out. The door slams behind me. This time the sound is final, locking me in. I rush back, yank at the handle. Solid. The radio hisses static, like someone leaning on every button at once. I beat it against my thigh, useless. I turn, light jittering across the wall. It steadies on a vent grate. Rusted, half loose. I crouch, fingers prying. It resists, screeching as I wrench it free. The grate crashes to the floor, metal ringing inside the cell. Behind it, a crawl space. I lower the flashlight. Dust hangs thick, bricks pressing tight. And there, half buried, a cassette. Clear plastic, label fading but intact. A date, written in marker, mid-70s. My throat dries. I stretch an arm in, fingertips brushing plastic. Too far. Only one choice. I sling the camera across my back, drop to my stomach, and slide in. The bricks scrape both shoulders raw, jacket ripping open. I crawl 3 meters, elbows grinding into grit, flashlight wedged between my teeth. Dust fills my mouth, choking. Every sound is amplified, breath rasping, heart pounding, the scratch of knees dragging forward. I reach the cassette, grab it fast, shove it into my pocket. The plastic feels warm, almost alive. I back out, muscles trembling. The space feels narrower than when I entered, every inch a fight. Halfway back, the light catches something in the dirt. A dull glint. I freeze, then reach. My fingers close around cold metal. A ring. Heavy, tarnished. I wipe it against my sleeve, clear enough to read numbers stamped inside. I focus the beam. One of the digits matches the torn ID from the Polaroid. Same inmate. Same bruised neck. Same story. My skin crawls, chest tight in the crawl space. Someone left this here, knowing I'd find it. The siren hadn't started yet, but I could feel it coming. The air in the infirmary was too still, the silence stretched too thin. I set my flashlight on the counter, pulled the ring from my pocket, and lined it up under the beam. Numbers stamped deep inside the band. One matched the fragment from the Polaroid. Proof the story wasn't just rumor. The infirmary itself was a ruin. Beds rusted through, mattresses rotted down to wire. Old cabinets stood open, shelves bare except for dust, and a single glass bottle, label faded. I rifled through drawers, hoping for ledgers, charts, anything. Nothing but broken syringes, mold, scraps of yellowed gauze. The place smelled of iron and rot, like the air never left. Looking for records? The voice cut sharp. Nolan stepped out from the shadows between 2 cabinets. He wasn't smiling this time. His face was tight, jaw locked. "You've got something," he said, glancing at my fist. "People have been spreading garbage about my father for years. Fights, smuggling, suicides. All lies. He worked this block. He gave 20 years, and they ruined him with stories." I slipped the ring back into my pocket, kept my hand steady on the camera. So why do I keep finding proof? The carving. The photo. This ring. His face twitched, eyes cutting away. "That's staged. You think you're the first person to poke around here? Every wannabe ghost hunter plants something, then films their discovery." Before I could push, the radio on my belt crackled. Deke's voice, sharp. "Unauthorized movement in restricted zones. Lockdown if it doesn't stop." Static swallowed the rest, but the word lockdown stuck like a blade. I pictured the gates dropping, trapping me until morning. Nolan moved closer, lowering his voice. "You don't understand. There were fights, yeah, but they weren't random. They were organized. Off the books. The warden never knew." He stopped, realized what he'd said. "Too late. Fight Club?" I asked. He froze, regret flashing across his face. "Forget it. That doesn't leave this room." But it was already on tape. The camera light glowed red between us, steady, recording every word. I weighed the cassette in my pocket, the one I'd pulled from the crawl space. Mid-70s. If it was what I thought, it might name names. Maybe even his father. "You want this to stay quiet?" I said, steady. "Get me into the warden's office. Safe, records, whatever's left. In return, I'll share the tape." Nolan shook his head, but his eyes gave him away. He wanted it. Bad. His hand flexed like he was considering just taking it from me, but he didn't. That's when the first siren wailed. Low, metallic, rolling through the halls, vibrating the cabinets around us. The infirmary lights flickered, then the grind of machinery. Metal gates were starting to close. The first thing I hear when we hit the admin tower is the siren choking out. It doesn't die. It stutters, like someone cut power mid-cycle. The hall plunges into half-dark. My flashlight beam catches framed portraits still hanging on the wall, faces of wardens staring down, cracked glass over their eyes. Nolan leads me up the stairwell, fast, like he knows the way by muscle memory. I keep my camera rolling, every step echoing against stone. At the landing, a wooden door waits. The plaque is long gone, but the office feels intact. Inside, the air is different. Stale dry. The warden's desk sits heavy at the center, drawers half open, paperwork scattered like someone ransacked it years ago. But the real prize is in the corner. A floor safe, squat and rusted, numbers still visible on the dial. I set the cassette player on the desk. I click play. The tape winds, then levels out. A voice, male, steady, recites numbers in sequence. Then names. Each one clipped, unemotional. I glance at Nolan. His jaw clenches. He doesn't want to be here. The safe dial resists, stiff from years of dust. I start matching the numbers from the tape, one at a time. My fingers sweat on the metal. Behind us, the sound of footsteps scrapes the hall. Too slow to be Nolan's earlier pace. Someone else is here. I hurry. The dial clicks faintly at the second number, then again. I spin faster, nearly losing grip. My heart hammers as the final number locks into place. A heavy clunk, and the safe door eases open with a groan that echoes through the office. Inside, a ledger. Thick, bound in leather, edges curled with age. I pull it out, lay it on the desk, and flip pages fast. Lines of names, dates, amounts scrawled beside them. Columns labeled maintenance, transfers, special. But the entries aren't normal. Suicides listed as arranged. Fights marked as bout with payouts. Guard initials signed beside every note. Some pages blotched with water, others still sharp, written in ink that hasn't fully faded. Then I see it. A name. Same digits as the ring I found in the crawlspace. Same inmate as the Polaroid. His death isn't filed as suicide. It's logged as a settlement. Payment collected. My stomach knots. It's the proof Nolan swore didn't exist. He stands stiff behind me, silent. His eyes scan the pages. His hands twitch like he wants to grab the book, but can't. I keep the camera trained on the ledger, my other hand snapping photos with my phone. One by one, fast. If they try to take it from me, I'll still have the evidence. Choice hits me. Take the ledger or just the photos. Carrying the whole book out is too obvious, too slow. I stick with the photos, snapping as many as I can. The flash from the phone paints the office in pulses of white. The footsteps outside stop. Silence holds for 3 beats. Then light sweeps the far wall, sharp and sudden. Not mine. Not Nolan's. Someone else is inside with us. The light in the warden's office swung across the wall again. I didn't wait to see who held it. I grabbed the camera, bolted through the side door, and tore down the stairwell 2 steps at a time. The footsteps followed, too close, closing in with every echo. At the end of the corridor, I found a hatch half hidden under peeling linoleum. I yanked it open, metal groaning, and dropped down before I had time to think. My boots hit concrete hard, knees rattling. I swung the hatch shut above me, sealing myself into pitch black. The service tunnel was narrow, barely taller than me crouched. Pipes ran overhead, dripping condensation. The air was thick, heavy, hard to pull into my lungs. I clicked the flashlight back on, beam fighting through dust and steam. I moved fast, camera bouncing against my chest. The tunnel stretched straight, then forked. My map didn't show this level. No lines, no markers. I picked left, my boots scraping grit, every sound magnified. Halfway down, the noise shifted. Not echo behind me, ahead. Breathing, slow and steady. I froze, pulse hammering, light shaking in my grip. Then he stepped out. Not Nolan, not Deke. An older man, face gaunt, clothes grimy like he'd been living down here. A trespasser, but not a curious kid. He looked desperate. His hand clutched a knife, blade small but steady. "Drop the bag," he said, voice cracked like it hadn't spoken in days. Camera 2. I kept the beam trained on his chest. Not happening. He edged closer, knife glinting. "You don't understand what's down here. That book upstairs, forget it. Give me the bag and walk away." Behind him, my light spilled into a chamber half blocked by brick collapse. Chains bolted to walls, hooks dangling. The room wasn't on any map. The smell seeping from it was heavier, metallic, like rust, and something worse. I glanced at it, and he caught the look. "You don't want to see that," he warned. That's where it started. Then he lunged. Instinct took over. I swung the tripod from my pack like a bat, smashing his wrist. The knife clattered to the ground, sparks jumping off stone. I shoved him into the wall, zip ties spilling from my kit. He fought once, teeth bared, but sagged as I cinched his wrist to a pipe. His breath came in ragged gasps, eyes wild but empty of fight. I kicked the knife down the tunnel, scooped the camera back up. My hands shook as the lens caught the chains, the hooks, the stains on the floor that looked too much like old blood. The air pressed heavy on my chest, like the room itself wanted me out. Then the red light blinked. Not the flashlight, the camera. Without warning, it had gone live. Streaming. My feed blasted straight to my channel. Comments exploded across the screen, lines flying too fast to read. What is that? Who's he? Keep going. Don't stop. Some viewers spammed emojis, others typed my name over and over. The chat box blurred into chaos. My phone buzzed in my pocket, vibrating hard against my leg. Caller ID Maria. I swiped, pressed it to my ear. Her voice was sharp, urgent, close to a shout. End the stream. Now. The stream was still live when I shoved open the tower door and stumbled into the night air. The yard stretched wide and empty, floodlights dead, shadows covering every corner. My camera feed glowed red, signal bar weak but clinging. If I lost connection now, everything I'd recorded, the ledger photos, the Polaroid, the ring, could vanish into someone else's hands. I sprinted across the cracked pavement, boots slamming against broken asphalt, every step loud enough to give me away. My breath cut short as I reached the base of the range tower. The ladder stretched up into the dark, steel rungs slick with rust. I clipped the camera to my harness, slung the bag tight, and started climbing. The higher I climbed, the weaker the signal blinked. I kept one hand on the rail, the other steadying the phone pressed against my vest. A notification flashed across the screen, 5,000 viewers watching live. The chat scrolled too fast to read. My audience was seeing this in real time, and if I cut out, they'd know something stopped me. At the top, I pulled myself onto the narrow platform. The wind cut sharp, pulling sweat from my face. The yard looked endless from here, cell blocks looming like dead giants. I set the camera on the rail, pointed down, and started patching footage through my hotspot. Slow, shaky, but working. Metal rattled below me. I looked down. A flashlight beam swung side to side. Deke. His voice carried up the ladder, low and deliberate. Give me the SD cards. Now. He started climbing, boots pounding the rungs, flashlight blinding me every time it tilted up. I backed against the rail, adrenaline spiking. If you want them, you'll have to take them on camera. The chat exploded in real time. Who's that? Security? Don't stop streaming. Deke was halfway up now, shoulders filling the ladder space. His radio crackled, Maria's voice. Stop him before he broadcasts. Do you understand? We can't let that out. I grabbed the cassette from my pocket, waved it like a bargaining chip. This goes out unless I get answers. Silence on the radio, then Maria's voice again, tighter. If the ledger's real, we're liable. Do you understand what that means? Shut it down before you ruin everything. Below me, Deke climbed faster. His hand reached for the rail just under mine. I scanned the tower platform, broken spotlight, rusted ammo box, and an old radio wired into the corner. Analog. Independent. Choice. I ripped the camera feed cable free, jammed it into the tower radio's input. The signal screeched, but the audio patched. My voice, raw, blasted through both the live stream and the old speaker system. Evidence confirmed. Ledger entries, suicide staged, fights fixed, payoffs logged. My words echoed across the yard, through the stream, into the night. Deke shouted from below, almost to the top. You don't know what you're doing. Then the radio cut. Static hissed. For a moment, nothing but the wind. And then a voice. Calm. Male. Clear. Not Maria. Not Deke. Not Nolan. The radio spat a number. It matched the digits stamped inside the ring. The radio went dead after the number. My ears rang in the silence, but I didn't stop. I pulled my phone, fingers flying over the screen, and mirrored every photo of the ledger to the cloud. A second later, I pushed the link to 2 press contacts. Insurance. If they cut the stream, it wouldn't matter. The evidence was already out. Below me, Deke's flashlight jerked. Shut it down. His boots hit the last rungs. I swung the camera toward my face, red light steady. Names. Dates. Payouts. Logged by guards in this prison. Proof that suicides were staged. My voice carried on the stream, flat and direct. Maria's voice came over the radio, sharp, breaking. Don't do this. You don't know what you're unleashing. Hand over the ledger, and I can make this stop. I looked down. The gate at the far end of the yard glowed red with warning lights. Sirens outside cut through the night. Real ones this time. Police, closing in fast. I shouted over the wind. Tell me about the inmate tied to this number. I held up the ring. Maria's answer shook. It wasn't suicide. It was ordered. He was moving contraband, threatening to expose people. The warden signed it off. My job was to bury it. I caught Nolan at the edge of the yard, hands gripping the fence. His voice carried weakly. She's lying. My father wasn't part of that. But the ledger said otherwise. The initials matched his father's hand, entry after entry. The cover-ups, the payouts, the forged suicide reports. All under his name. I kept the stream live, my voice steady. Ledger entry dated 1976. Inmate ID ending in the same digits as this ring. Death filed as suicide. Reclassified in handwriting. Price. Payment confirmed. Deke froze halfway up the ladder, the weight of it landing harder than my words. He looked back at Maria, then climbed down. He didn't want his face on camera anymore. Maria's voice turned into a plea. Delete it. Please. This doesn't just kill reputations, it destroys families. You don't want that blood on you. I leveled the camera straight into the lens, every muscle burning from the climb. The blood's already here. I'm just showing where it came from. The police sirens hit the front gates, floodlights flashing over the yard. Engines roared, doors slammed. Maria's figure shrank into shadow. Nolan backed against the fence, shaking his head. I stayed on the tower platform, words cutting through the stream. I read names. I read dates. I read amounts. My throat felt raw, but I didn't stop until the list was out in the open, until the ledger's silence was broken. Blue lights washed the yard. Officers swarmed in, shouts echoing. Someone reached the base of the tower, yelling for me to come down. I clipped the camera to my vest, slid the phone into my pocket, and started the climb. At the bottom, hands grabbed me, pulling me clear. The gate screeched open. The night outside felt wider, real. I looked back once, Maria was gone. Nolan stood alone, head bowed. Deke had vanished. In the parking lot, I shoved the last files into encrypted storage, double-sent the link to 3 more contacts. No way it disappears now. By 4 a.m., the gates unlocked automatically. The lockout cycle ended. I was free to leave, but the prison wasn't finished. Hours later, security footage reviewed by responding officers showed one final detail. Camera angle, East Block, cell 13. Timestamp, for 12. The door stood wide, and in the frame, a figure. Still, watching. No one else was inside.